Hey everybody, hopefully you're having a nice, Tuesday evening. Thanks for coming out and joining me. Gonna cover a couple of topics. One is letting go, and then I'm going to hit an update, show some redacted documents or a main document about what's going on in my civil court case. Hopefully everything is working okay. I'm going to just pretend that everything is until someone says otherwise. Anyways, we got a few people in here already. There was a few early jumper honors. So I want to say hey to iTumblers. Hey iTums, thanks for joining. Oh, you basically, that was a mistake text. Glad to see you're back. I'm trying. I'll talk a little bit about my struggles on that. And when we get to the open session of this, I do have to say that I ran out of some of my medication, which could impair or inhibit some of this live stream. So if it ends up ending early, it might be because it'd be really nice if my insulin would show up. God, got to just keep positive as much as I can, I guess. Defy Dad jumps on and says, another court hearing coming up with my petition to modify. I'm going to grab these because I think we'll hit these later. Looks like all the documents from various third parties and experts are in order. Continues on to say, doing all this without an attorney is difficult, especially when you're battling the other side who has attorneys representing the other party. Yeah, that does complicate things. It's really an exercise of frustration and an exercise of your own ability, like stoicism, to see how much you can actually endure. Kind of a part of what we're going to talk about tonight. We got the Wise Chat Manager, one of our mods is on. Jack Lumen, who was so kind a few episodes back to hit me up on the Discord and say, hey, you know, it's not Jack LeMaine, it's Jack Lumen. As you guys probably know, I have a sordid history of messing up people's names. So I apologize for that. It's not intentional. It's just for some reason, my brain, when I look at things, it just, especially when I'm on camera, it's like it leaves me, throws me to the wind for me to make a fool of myself. So, all right, I'll get to some of the rest of the comments a little bit later. Hold on, let me pull this one. Oh, it fell off the screen, and I'm going to do... well, that didn't work. Well, that's annoying. My stinger was supposed to do stingery things, and it didn't. Oh, well. Gosh darn it. All right. The first thing I want to hit on tonight's show is talking about letting go. And this is kind of interesting. I know I've hit this topic before, but I was talking to a buddy of mine who's been going through some stuff, and this topic came up, and I have been working with some folks via email, and this is also a topic that I think a lot of people struggle with. And I'll just start before I start pulling up the points I want to hit. This whole thing, letting go, is really tough because in the midst of it, you know, you'll have some knucklehead of an acquaintance thinking they're being helpful and telling you, you just have to let go. Just let go. That's all you have to do. Now, I don't know about you, but I will say for me, when people said that to me in the beginning stages of this, it was kind of irritating. I'm like, how am I ever, and this is a conversation I was having earlier, thinking back, it's like, how am I ever going to let this go? How am I going to ever get out of my mind and make my peace with, or whatever you want to call it, with the crap that has happened, with what's happening right now, with what I'm starting to realize back, 12 years ago, 11 years ago, when I'm starting to realize that this issue has been an ongoing issue for decades. And you're looking back at your life, you're ruminating, and you're saying, there's no way. I mean, I remember me personally thinking, there's no way. There is no way I will ever be able to get over this anger and bitterness. And even though I know that it's going to be negative and it's going to basically, nearly kill me, I just figured it was something I would have to learn to accept and deal with. In my older videos, I used to talk about this, where I thought in that period of time that it would be the equivalent of losing a limb, and okay, I have to make the peace with it, but I will always know every day I will wake up and realize I don't have a limb. That's what I used to think. And that was kind of my early part of making my peace with it, is like, okay, I'm just going to accept that this pain is something that I'm going to have to deal with, and just go from there. Just little caveat, little mental, or little, teaser. That was incorrect. And things ended up being a lot better than I ever imagined they could be, which to me means things can be better for you than you could ever imagine as well. Now, I know saying that right now might feel like an impossibility, but just take it from somebody who felt the same way and thought that I would never be able to move past that it would be along the same lines. So hold on, let me not answer this because there's a phone call coming in. And I haven't turned on the phone lines, but I'm prepared to potentially do the phone lines. Let me just text and say, I am live. Send. Okay. Hopefully that will work. And hopefully it's not a 911 emergency, because that would be just horrible timing and a horrible situation. So let me go back to this, trying something a little different here. Okay. Kind of already hit this, but letting go is freaking hard. This is a tough thing. I really do believe when I say the bullet says, for people listening on the podcast, that this is the hardest thing to do. I really believe that. And partly I say that because it took me years to figure this thing out and to make my peace with it and to move past it. So just, bear with me on that. Here's the other thing that was really interesting when I was chatting with my buddy. And I know you guys have heard, probably, that have been around on this channel for a while, have heard me say this before, but it really feels like our experience on this planet is to learn lessons. And it really seems like when something happens and the purpose of it is for you to learn something, the more you resist it, the more you fight it, like I said, it's the hardest thing to do, the more opportunity we get to learn it. And what I wrote on the bullet, it seems like a lesson that is forced until we learn. And what I think happens is it starts out at a low level. It starts low. And then it starts to go, it amps up and it starts to get higher. And it's like, if you didn't figure it out here, you get this chance. Oh, that one didn't work. That one wasn't painful enough. Hey, let's try that again and do it again and do it again until it gets so painful that your head either just pops off, or you finally realize that if you don't learn the lesson, which I think a lot of times is learning the art of letting go, it will destroy you and kill you. And I know for me personally, there was a period of time where I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, if I don't figure this out, if I don't get the message and move to the next, get to the next step, this is going to kill me. I mean, I have journal entries where I know I said that over and over and over again. You have to slow yourself down to try to ask the question. The other thing on here that was interesting, and I was talking to a buddy of mine because he said the exact same thing that I used to think. He's like, because he was he was kind of reminiscing about his struggles through it. And he's like, man, when I was really going through this, it felt like, damn it, the answer is right there. I feel like someone is screaming it to me. Well, I might have said this, but he's like, the answer's there. It's just, I can't see it. It's out of reach. It's like that memory or that thought that is just, you just can't place it. You can't figure it out. And what I said is, yeah, my experience was I thought it was like somebody standing in front of me, yelling at me, trying to tell me what to do, but in a language I could not understand. It's like they're saying, bop-a-dop-a-dop-a-dop-a-dop-a-dop, and I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? Do I need to go left? Do I need to go right? Do I need to go backwards? Is a house on fire? Do I need to? I mean, what are you trying to tell me? The door's there. The door's there. I mean, what's the magic word? And I remember going through that phase of my life, and I'm like, oh my God! It's like right at the tip of my well, not my tongue, but like right there. It's like I know the answer's right there. I just can't see it. Another little secret I'll tell you: most of the time, you're going to find out, and it's kind of annoying, you're going to find out that the answer is a hell of a lot more simpler than you thought. I had that issue where I'm like, this has got to be more complicated. There's got to be like 900 steps to get to nirvana. It's like, the analogy or the story of the person going up to the mountain, going through all that struggle to get to the monk or the guru or whatever they call them, and to get the answers to the meaning of life. And then you get there and it's like, well, the answer. And, before you start, if someone says that doesn't make sense, but it's like, once you battle through all this and you figure it out and you reprioritize what's important, what's not important, what do I put my intentions and my energies to, what do I not do it to? That is all key. It is all key. So the next, let me bring this back up. So here's the other thing, and I didn't quite say this right on the bullet. The bullet says recognize when you're getting pulled back in, but it's more of recognize when you're being retested. I think in some phase, and I'll get to this a little bit later, that that court case I was dealing with was a test. And well, I guess I can jump into it. What I'll say on that is, before I had that hearing, I was going into the hearing thinking, I got to win this. I got to win this. I have to win. If I don't win, this is going to be catastrophic. And it was really stressing me out. And over the weekend, I had a consult with an attorney that I used through Just Answers, who is now, I have an affiliate program with on the show. I just haven't configured it correctly, but they did finally answer me. So that's cool. So I was talking with the Just Answer attorney who helped me with a lot of it. And I said, hey, what should I expect? He kind of ran through some stuff, and I'm like, so should I win this? I mean, I should win this, right? This is slam dunk. I mean, I should win this. And he's like, well, you should, but depending on the judge and determining, what his level of acceptance of risk is and all that kind of stuff, there's a chance that he might not approve or sustain your, I don't know if he said sustain, but maybe he did, sustain your demurrer. And if that's the case, then you'll have to go through the next step, which will be doing the answer, and then, the answering the plain, and the answer is what it's called, and the affirmative defenses, and then doing disclosures and I can't remember what the word was. I don't think it was depositions. I don't think that was it. But he was like, then you'll get to the second point where they will expose enough on record that you will be able to do a summary judgment. He's like, you're still going to win. It just might take a little bit longer. So for me, I was like, oh, crap. So I remember before the hearing, I'm like, kind of like the day before, I was thinking, I'm like, this is a test. This is the universe, God, whatever, testing to see if I've really been able to kind of make my peace with things or letting go. And I had this moment where I'm like, okay, I do want to win. I want this to be over. I want the stress to be over. But if I don't, it's not the end of the world. I know what my next course of action is, and it's okay. It's okay. And I got to that mode where I was like, okay, whatever happens, I'm okay with. And what I can say and again, that's like basically letting go. I mean, that's part of that whole letting go of your attachment to an outcome, holding people accountable, that type of thing. And I made my peace with it. And I mean, there was even a point on the folks that caught the live stream that I have since privated and will keep off until an appropriate time to be able to reopen that up or recover the that whole story. And when I first got into the hearing, when it finally got to us after about a half an hour, he started out with saying, well, I'm going to deny this part. I had two parts that I was trying to argue in my demurrer to have the case thrown out. And he goes, well, I'm going to deny this one. And I'm like, oh, crap. And then it went to the second one, and it was like, but I'm going to sustain this one. And it was like the defect that the plaintiff has, the court does not feel they will have the ability to surpass this defect. So I'm going to sustain it without the ability to amend, and I knew from my research, I knew I won, right? I'm like, oh shoot, I won. Holy crap. I just won this. Anyways. So, and I think part of it, I almost get the feeling like if I would have been more stressed about it, maybe it would have been ruled differently just because, okay, knucklehead, you didn't learn your lesson. You didn't learn about letting go. So I'm going to give you some more time to see if you can figure that out. So next thing is, and this is the killer on this one, is ruminating about the past, ruminating about what you've lost is a recipe for disaster. All that, and don't get me wrong, unfortunately, this is a step that you are absolutely going to have to take. You cannot fast forward through it. I wish you could. I wish there was a magic formula. I try to use my experiences to throw it out there to help you feel like, oh, okay, hey, this person's been through it. So maybe, add a little more trust and lean into it. But ruminating on the past, ruminating on what you've lost, all that will do, it will keep you stuck without the ability to move forward. And it is absolutely a trap. I fell into that trap, and I also have worked with a bunch of people who also fell into that trap, and I have some people that I'm working with. Either there's some that are coaching clients, others that are just I work with through email, and just throwing it out there. People, I can't answer all the emails, but every once in a while something comes in and I'll try. So if you really need to get with me, the best way is through coaching. If it's not that dire or immediate of a situation, send emails and I will do my best. But on that, I've been working with some folks who are absolutely struggling with this. And they keep going back to, but it's not fair. They destroyed all of this. All this has been destroyed. It's not fair. And I'm like, yeah, it's not. And you guys have heard me on my older videos. I've said that, you have every right to be angry. I am not saying well, you have no right to, here, let me do it this way. You have no right to be mad about this. You just have to let it go. And you're just overreacting. No, you're not. You're not overreacting. It's absolutely valid. This should have never happened. You shouldn't have had to deal with it. It's not fair. But the reality is like, what is this rumination doing to help you get you your life back? And the answer is nothing. It's doing absolutely nothing. It is holding you in position, like in idle. You're going nowhere. You can't go forward. You can't go backward. You're just basically burning gas and getting nowhere. And you're just wasting time. Now, sometimes we have to waste that time, like I had to finally get to the point to where it's like, okay, I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. So if you find yourself ruminating, don't poke yourself in the eye and say, why can't I get over this? It takes time. And I've worked with people. I've also had people I've worked with via email on the channel and as coaching clients, where every once in a while they'll be like, oh, I just got what you said. You've been saying this for 2 years. I hate the ones that are really long, but I get it now. That's what you meant. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I meant. Because you've been saying that for a year, a year and a half. I'm like, yeah, I have. But a lot of times it doesn't click until it clicks for you. The same thing happened with me. I was like angry. And then one day I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I have to let it go. And then it was like, I let it go. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? Like, remember earlier I mentioned the point about it being easier than we think? And it was like, this is a joke, right? This is silly. And it was, that's oftentimes that's how it works out. Unfortunately, you cannot force the issue. You cannot make it happen. You will have to just kind of work on this. And at some point, the pieces are going to click and it'll make sense. And you're like, oh. For instance, like when I was talking about before, this fact/scenario of, like somebody yelling the answer at me and not knowing. It's almost like, oh, wait a minute. You mean to get out of this room? There's a door right behind the camera. I'm like, all I have to do is open the door and walk out and I'm free. Yeah. But it can take a long time for all of that to click. This is the key. And this is where things start to happen faster, because initially all the stuff that you're doing is you're fighting with yourself. You're like, no, it's not that. No, I can't let it go. No, I can't, they can't get away with this. I have to somehow figure out how to hold them accountable. There's got to be payback. There's got to be justice. There's got to be something to where these people or this person is exposed and they get held accountable. I used to feel that way. And you know what? Some of us have the luxury, I don't know if luxury is the right word, but the good fortune where that happens, where you are able to line everything up and the other person gets crushed and exposed and you're like, yes, I won. I think that's a small minority of us that achieve that. I think the second minority of us are the folks who beat our heads against the walls for years. And it seems really weird that 8 years seems to be a very common number I hear from people who have this type of experience, where they're beating their heads against the wall. And then around that 8-year mark, everything finally just works out. They finally win, the ex is crushed and, you get that big victory. But I think sometimes when you get to that point, it's like, it's a hollow victory. It's not even like, wow, I won. It's more like, wow, really? Really? So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. That's my impression. So, and I think my final comment on this letting go topic is, and this is unfortunate, all of this takes time. And let me clarify, when I say time, I'm not saying, oh, all of this takes hours. Work on it for hours and it will just click and it will work. Now, everyone's timeline is different. Maybe somebody might figure it out in a couple of days or a month. I think the average is probably 2 to 3 years. That's kind of the road I fell into. And there are people who are pushing, 5, 6, 7 years dealing with stuff like this. Everyone's timeline is different, and that's okay. So if things haven't just worked out, don't beat yourself up and say, well, DSD, he said he did it in 2 years and I'm still beating my head against the wall 5 years, or 4 years or whatever. Guys, everyone's timeline is different. So don't beat yourself up on that. Yeah, conversely, if you happen to be one of the ones who were able to figure it out in a couple months, don't go around saying you guys are all knuckleheads because I figured it out faster. Just good for you. Take your win and move on on that. That is the main topic for tonight of letting go. Before I hit my little stinger thing, I'm going to see if I can figure out quickly what I did wrong, because I must have deleted something or something. I must have somehow said, you know what, I am smarter than all this stuff, and I'm going to just do something, and the result is it didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work. Add marker, stinger. Yeah, it's right there. Huh. I don't know. Oh, well, I really liked that when I did it the other day. Well, I'm going to hit the button anyways because it gives me a marker. It worked that time. Okay. All right. We'll roll on to looking at some comments before I get into my update. Let me change. I heard that come through my speakers. So let me swing that around. Uh-oh. Make sure that my computer does not crash. You guys will have to let me know, for the people who are watching this live, if you want me to turn on the phone lines, let me know and I will do that. But right now I haven't, and partly I don't, because as soon as I hit the button, it starts charging me money. So I'm going to look. I'll start from the current comments. So what I'll say is, anybody who had a comment about what this topic is, if you want to repeat it so it's right at the beginning, or at the current comments, please do that. I also like to say thank you for whomever the thumbs down is. It always makes me laugh a little bit whenever I got this little window. I know YouTube doesn't show it, but in the chat thing of my software, it shows me the thumbs ups and thumbs down. And I saw one just pop up, and it's like, I have 19 thumbs ups, 1 thumbs down. Well, I apologize to the person who I have offended somehow. I hope your day, whomever you might be, gets better. So, all right. Let's see here. I'm going to, and if you want to get my attention, put a Q or do @DSD, because that helps me see it. I like what Wise says here. It says, we have to start somewhere. Absolutely. Jack Lumen says, rebuilding. I'm still, whoops, get off that screen. I am still a bit stuck on demo and site cleanup. Like I said, it takes time, right? And everyone's timeline's different on how this stuff works. I had a friend of mine I was working with on their thing, and I mean, it was not a coaching relation. It was actually a friend in real life who was going through this. And they kept, going back. Let me just pull this up real quick. Going back to getting pulled back in, that third bullet, recognizing when you're getting pulled back in. And they would take the bait, and I would like, dude, you know better. You know what's going on. Why did you, he'd say, well, this happened, and I said blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, why did you do that? You know it was a bait. You know it was just to get a rise from you. And I'm like, what? Let me guess what happened. You did that. You guys went back and forth for a little bit, and then she disappeared. She got all the narcissists in that situation. It was ex-wife, but it always goes the same way. They get their narcissistic supply, and once they've achieved their goal of controlling your emotions, they've got what they won. They got what they wanted. The argument wasn't the win. It was getting you to argue that was the win. Okay. Jack Lumen also says, I can confirm ruminating and brooding held me back. Guys, it does. And I hope that if you're struggling with that and you see, and you're looking at that, you're like, oh my God, I'm doing that now. Start working on it, because it's not easy, but it does start to pivot and change. So, the wise chat manner says, a good attorney will never say things in absolutes. Yeah, everything, and that it's kind of sucks, because it's hard to get a clear answer, but they're being honest, right? I mean, anybody who tells you, and this is what these, I need a beep button. This is what these beep people do, is they'll tell you what you want to hear to get you to sign the contract and pay the retainer. And then whenever they burn through all your money and you didn't get anything, it's like, well, sometimes things just don't work out. So, Kevin says, DSD, any juicy updates on the lawsuit with your narcissistic mother? Yes, I will be getting to that here in a minute. I just wanted to go through the comments before I do that. So thanks for asking about that. That was the second half, or the second part of this. I'm just scrolling through and seeing if did the video freeze for everyone? Oh no. With my 2 gig up and down fiber connection that I now have, there should be no broadcast issues. So I'm assuming I didn't see anyone else say anything about that. So I think that was probably isolated to you. Hopefully not. If there's anyone else that's having connectivity issues, then you think it might be me, let me know. So Shane says, the only people in my life that tell me I need to move on or let go are also narcissistic. It's the same people that never stop talking to me about their problems. Yeah, and Shane, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is a form of, like people who are doing it for that reason, what they're doing is they're trying to diminish your reality. It's cognitive dissonance, where they're basically saying, let me zoom in. There's nothing wrong. Why are you all worried about that? You need to just let that go. And they're trying to get away. Sometimes it might be them, the person you're frustrated with, or other times it might be, someone else like Shane's talking about, who just likes the chaos and is trying to keep it going. So good comment there, man. All right. Oh yeah. Wise was talking about my medication issues. Oh, I'll just bring this up because this is kind of funny. Wise says, DSD better see Snoop Dogg for the good stuff. It's funny. Not really, kind of. I miss doing my blood work. And so I ran out of my prescription. I finally got to where all the refills got used up. And I'm like, crap. Normally what happens is I get to that point. I don't have the blood work paperwork. I don't do it. By the time I get it, I'm, if anyone knows anything about diabetes, I'm at like 400s, 500s, or I think my meter only goes up to like 500 and then or maybe 599. I've even had a few where it's like, yeah, your number is beyond the readings of this meter. And I'll call the doctor and they're like, you just need to go to the emergency room. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm not doing that. And then, it's like, well, why are your numbers so bad? Well, it's like, because I ran out of medication and you guys wouldn't refill it. So this time they said they would refill it, but apparently it may not be available because that was on, I guess it's only Tuesday. So technically it was yesterday. I kind of thought I'd get it yesterday or today, but neither was the case. All right, let me scroll down to the bottom. Let's see. Okay. I'll hit this. Ruben says, letting go was the hardest thing. I never knew it was easy to see. Wait a minute. Letting go was the hardest thing. I never knew it was easy to see. Felt like I was such a fool. Tough all the way around. Yeah, exactly, Ruben. And I'm sorry I butchered your comment. But what he's saying, or what I think you're saying, is kind of what I was mentioning earlier, is like, once you finally get to that point, you're like, really? Really? This is the answer? This simple answer that I have complete control over. You know? I used to use an analogy, or I used to reference a video from the movie Labyrinth. I think it was Labyrinth, you know, where Sarah is at the end of the thing, and the Goblin King is saying, just rule me, just fear me, just do all these things. And she's like, wait a minute, you have no power over me. And he's like, no, don't say that, no. And everything just, he goes away, and she comes back to the real world. And I think that's a perfect analogy to what we're talking about. It's like you go through, and what is it? A 2-hour movie. You go through her experience. She goes through this entire experience, struggling to try to save her little brother Toby from being turned into a goblin, all to realize that she had the power the entire time. I mean, it's almost, I guess the same trope would be, I don't know if trope's the right word, but like the Wizard of Oz, you can always, all you had to do was just, click the ruby slippers, and, all I want to do is go home, and boom. And that's kind of fortunately, unfortunately, it really comes down to, it's that simple. And it's so hard to accept it. It's like like what Ruben was talking about. You have to go through so much to where it finally just like poof. It's like, really? Really? That's the answer? That simple answer? And the crazy part, when I was talking about lessons early on, I'll bring this up just so you can see it. I've had various opportunities throughout my life to learn this lesson. There was one time when I was a young lad in the Air Force, and something happened, and I was so wrapped into the job that I had. I loved this job. It was like, my heart and soul was into it. And I was like, man, they're going to take this away from me. This is, I'm going to lose this. They're going to pull me out. I was having a weight issue is what the problem was. And I had this epiphany one day. I'm like, you know what? I just have to accept it, make my peace with it, and just be okay. And the crazy part is that's exactly what I did. I didn't do it out of anger. I just had this epiphany, right? I was turning myself in knots, if that's the correct phrase. And I remember I finally came to this thing, and I went to my boss and I said, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Just send me back. I want to go back to, I was kind of in a special area. I'm like, I just want to go back and do my normal stuff. I'm okay. Just send me back. And I admit, and it wasn't out of anger. It wasn't like, oh, F you. I'm going to, this is what I'm going to do. You need me more than I need you. And I'm going to do this to punish you. It was like, I can't do this anymore. And it was so weird because the moment that I did that, the moment I let go of my connection, attachment to that thing, to that job, to that thing I thought was at risk, they actually gave it. I stayed. It's like I didn't even, the thing I was fearing the most when I said, okay, you know what? Let's just do it. I'll just do that. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. We're not going to do that. I'm like, oh, and it's everything pivoted. Everything switched. But I learned it obviously there, right? And I've taken that with me. But I will tell you, the divorce was next level, as you guys all know, next level nightmare. And it was like the universe saying, okay, all right, you think you understand this. We're going to give you a test to really see if you can put all this into work. And I didn't. I crashed and burned. I forgot all those lessons. When my divorce thing started, I was 42, 43. So all that stuff that I had learned, especially in the last 6 years, It freaking went out the window. I was in constant fight or flight mode, and it was not such a great experience. So I had another chance to learn. And God, I wish that I could have figured that out, the first week of the divorce process, and just made my peace with it and been okay and just kind of let go of the attachment. And I kind of did in a way. And then the ex, like most of ours do, basically turned into frickin' Satan incarnate, and just like, the stuff that was happening was like, it was a real test. Now, I think if I was to go through it today, I would deal with it better. I think in some ways the lawsuit thing, which I'll talk about in a moment, was a big test on that. And that hit me, and it bothered me for a few months. Actually, and it was still bothering me up until the lawsuit won, and I, was dealing with, I've just kind of been in that mode where I'm just kind of dealing with the numbness after that. We can talk about that more later. All right. Oh yeah. Sai says, aha moment. Exactly. Those are the things that really, really help. Lori says, hi to you, Lori. Tumblr says, DSC, yes, it can be exhausting to fight back, but you never know what could happen unless you actually do it. It's a balancing, a picking/choosing battles and knowing when to take a step back. Exactly. Great point. I'm glad you mentioned that. And what I want to say on that is oftentimes we have to try, and my hope for you guys is that you don't have to try 27 times getting your head bashed in. You can try a few times, recognize, okay, this isn't working, and then say, okay, I've done enough. Now, it took me a few times not accepting what I was dealing with, thinking that things would turn around, would change, would become better. And, after a while, when I just felt like all I was doing was, beating my head against the wall, I just knew I had to stop. And even then, when I recognized that, it still took me a while to do that. David says, it seems when we look back in retrospect, we can see a pattern of events these narcs took that look like they were set up by design for us to fail. Yeah, and David, I think the key on that is what happens is they start out mimicking and mirroring everything we ever wanted. They either, you could call it that they're mirroring us. So we think we found the perfect match. We found our soulmate. We found the best person ever. And it's, I don't do drugs, but I'll use this analogy and hopefully it makes sense. It's like you get that first hit and you keep chasing that. And then unfortunately, nobody can maintain a false facade forever. And cracks in that facade start to occur relatively soon. And depending on our level of codependency, our level of conditioning from childhood, will determine whether we rapidly figure that out. My normal thing that I've seen from folks is if you had a good upbringing, good parents, good healthy boundaries growing up, you'll recognize when that facade falls quickly, and typically the relationship will blow apart at the 1 to 2 year mark. Now, unfortunately, you can have kids with somebody in, 1 year. So, if you have a kid with them, you're kind of stuck. Whereas people like myself, who was fortunate enough to have the cool experience of toxic mother and all the stuff that entailed, I was conditioned for it. So it took me 2 decades to finally come to terms that maybe the things in my marriage just wasn't right. So, Lori says, I won a small, Duane, I won a small battle in court yesterday. Well, hold on. Let me hit this button. Congratulations, Lori. If you can, mention, if you're comfortable with it, mention what happened. I'd love to hear it. I love hearing victories. So let me scroll back down, and then I think I can use that as a good segue. No, not marker. Hide comment. To move on to the next topic. So let me just kind of scroll down here real quick. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. You did say. So Lori says, yes, my ex-narc is constantly setting me up. Some of the best advice I've ever gotten was from you about 6 years ago when you tell hold on. So when you told me probably to make it so that he has to communicate solely through our family wizards. Well, again, Lori, let me hit the applause button. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. I keep forgetting I switched it off the soundboard. I'm glad to hear that. And probably if you had a victory, then he probably torpedoed himself with a bunch of documentation in our family wizard that demonstrated or showed that what you've been probably for the last, 8 years trying to, or 6 years, trying to get the court to see, they finally saw. Which, again, didn't I just say that it's like the trend is 8 years? About 6 years ago. I'm trying to remember if you said, didn't you say 8 years ago, 8 years at some point? Where is it? I'm trying to see it. I'm trying to find it. No, you didn't. You said 6 years, and you said you had one yesterday. Okay. But again, my segue on that, people like to say that, court is biased. It's biased towards women. Women always win. In my opinion, the court is biased towards narcissistic people who are willing to lie, cheat, and steal and say whatever they can in court. And it's like they get a pass on it. And it's so crazy because it seems like the decent person, the person that's trying to do the right thing, gets just destroyed and run through a nightmare because of that. Excuse me. I don't know if I'm reading this right. So Lori says, thanks. My ex is an attorney constantly suing me. This one motion for me to be in contempt over $37. $37? Yeah, see, these people are, fortunately at some point, you're going to get that fictitious litigant and probably get it thrown out. Yeah, and again, it's like we were talking about before. It's like, these people know that if they do things in court, you have to show up. I think one positive thing out of the pandemic was the virtual hearings. Like my hearing, when I'm like, wait a minute, I don't actually have to show up. You're telling me I can just Zoom in? And I did that. For the trial, I technically, if I really push it and had a reason, I could get the judge to do it on a trial. But for all the status hearings, it's like, no, you can do it. You don't have to be there in person. I'm like, wow. Okay. All right. God, I'll just hit this last one. Lori says, my ex said he was having our son take boxing lessons for $50. Yeah. They'll use court just to make you have to show up. You have to, so you probably were doing no contact or hybrid no contact. And he's like, gosh darn it, she won't play with me. I know. I will take her to court and she has to show up, and you have to frickin' answer. I was talking to another person about, it's like, hey, if you want to, if you're ready to go for costs for winning your hearing or winning your case, let me know. I'll help you with it. And it's like probably anywhere from $450 to $800. And I'm like, it's not worth it, and especially it's like, well, you file this, and as long as they don't file a motion to do something, it'll be a slam dunk. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. Yeah. Is there a part of me that it would be nice to have that little like, oh, you tried to do this to me, and oh, by the way, now you have to cut me a check? I don't care. It's like, go away. Leave me alone. So, all right. So on that, where's the button? I'm going to switch to, where did I put the, okay, I guess I'm not going to switch to it. I'm going to use my keyboard to get to it. There we go. All right, what I figured I would do is I would share the redacted version of my winning demurrer with you guys. Hopefully you'll enjoy this. So let me pull this up. So this is what I received today. I called the court because I'm like, hey, what's going on with my thing? Because, well, actually, let me back up. Yeah, because like yesterday they filed something showing that the order was put in the system. I'm like, oh, cool. Great. It's almost over. And then no status change. So I called today and I'm like, hey, I'm still in pending status. There's still a case management hearing in April. What's going on? And the person on the phone says to me, oh, well, the only thing that happened is your demurrer was approved. And that's it. That doesn't close the case. I'm like, okay. I'm like, look, I'm a noob. I don't know what I'm doing. This is about what I said. I said, look, I really don't understand the process. So obviously I said, what is my next step then? Because obviously I'm missing something. So, because I thought, my understanding is that demurrer is basically going to get this case thrown out. So what happened is I said, hold on, let me put you on hold. A minute later comes back and it's like, oh, I asked the clerk, and yes, your case will be vacated and the case will be dismissed, and I'll email you a copy of this document that I'm sharing with you guys. I got this earlier today. So up here, and the other interesting, I think the reason I want to show this is because it was so difficult to get to the point where I got this that I figured out how to create these documents. I literally spent 8 hours trying to format and configure this correctly, ultimately realizing that if I would have just did what I was doing before, I could have been done in like 30 minutes. So I guess I have some attachment to this document, and I want to share it with you guys so that I feel validated in this whole experience. Anyways, hopefully you find that funny. All right, so right here you can see it was electronically received. That's when I sent that. I sent it to them. They filed it. I'm redacting the court and the county and the name of the plaintiff. You guys know my name, so I'm going to show you at least my first name. Anyways, so this is me with all my contact information. This says basically me, all my full name in pro per, because I'm representing myself. Now, keep in mind that according to the California documents, it literally says on line 8 of your document, you will, or 7-8, you will put the court, you'll put that. And it says line, 10 or 11, you will put this. And it will be like this. I mean, it's like, if anybody's in the let me try that again. If anybody has been in the military, specifically the Air Force, we have this thing called a tongue and quill, where it tells you how to write every document. And if you have a really anal retentive commander, they will reject stuff because, oh, well, you didn't put the signature block, 6 inches over. You only had it 5 inches over. So that doesn't work. So do it again. Do it again. Wrong. Like, what was it, that Pink Floyd song? Wrong. Do it again. Anyways, okay, so, oh, darn. Okay, so don't scroll over it because I can see behind it. Sorry about that. That's good to know. Or maybe I just redacted that and hold on, okay. Well, that's interesting. So I'll be careful of going over the black marks. Okay, so plaintiff versus me. That was the other thing they complained about on this one. I had listed out, because all my other examples and every other filing, I said plaintiffs, and I listed them. And then I had, defendant, and they're like, take that out. I'm like, okay. And I only could send them a PDF. So this is it. It starts out as, wait a minute, this ain't the right one. I'm looking at the wrong one. All right, hold on. Well, that's weird. No, it's the right one. Okay, so the other one I was looking at had proposed line through. So somehow whatever I did when I edited this document, it took out the line that they lined through the proposed. So it's actually signed at the bottom. I'll show you. There's the judge's signature. Okay, so it says, Order Sustaining Demurrer. I had to have Google say that so I could pronounce that correctly, because I was originally calling it a demurrer. It's demurrer. The demurrer came on regularly for hearing on January 22nd, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. in Civil Division of the Superior Court of Redacted. I'll just say that when I first did it, I didn't say Civil Division. I said Civil Department. They rejected it for that too. That was all. I fixed it. Second time I got it through. I apologize for that. The Honorable Redacted presiding. Defendant appeared via audio-video communication in propria persona. Plaintiff appeared in person. The court, having reviewed the demurrer and all papers filed in connection thereto, and having heard the oral arguments of the parties, the court hereby orders as follows. The court sustains defendant's demurrer to plaintiff's complaint. In California, the statute of frauds that is relevant here is, quote, an agreement that is made that by its terms is not to be performed within a year from making thereof is, quote, invalid unless they or some note of or memorandum thereof are in writing and subscribed by the parties to be charged or by the party's agent. Now, I just want to say on that, when I read that the first time, I had no idea what that meant. The judge did say in the thing, he basically said, it has to be in writing and both of you have to sign it. And I did not realize that. I thought if somehow there was a written, I don't know why I thought this, somehow if there was something written and it wasn't signed, I thought maybe it could still be valid. There was nothing written, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not like this was all a lie from the beginning. But that wording made no sense to me. So the contract at issue is invalid because it is not in writing signed by both parties. This is a defect the court believes cannot be corrected. The court denies leave to amend. This action is dismissed. Judgment is hereby entered for defendant. That would be me, by the way. It is so ordered. Signed January 5th, 2024 at 8:42 in the morning. Was that yesterday? Yeah, that was yesterday. And then blah, signature, Honorable Redacted Judge of the Superior Court. And that is it. That barely two-page, couple paragraph document and that hearing this is over. This is done. Dunny McDone done. My other research, and I posted a thing on this on the community tab, maybe last week when I was just doing some research, thinking, what's the appealable potential here? And that is, it basically says, well, one, it says a demurrer is hardly ever granted. You very rarely win a demurrer. So I will do this for me. Congratulations to myself for pulling off something that is not normally achieved. I honestly have to thank my mother for that, because she effectively made her position in multiple places throughout the original filing for this lawsuit to make my point. I think had she not done that, I think I would have probably, the demurrer may have been denied because she did not, in writing in court documents, basically make my point multiple times. So anyways, I'm going to look at some of the comments now. So, I think I see Lori throwing up hands. like clapping, I think, or it's doing the yay thing. iTumbler says, congratulations again. Thank you, sir. Oh, yeah, Lori says, woot yay. Thank you. Not showed, but traveled from out of state. Yes. Okay. Well, wait a minute. Hold on. Did you ask a question? See, I'm going backwards, so it makes it a little more complicated. So the wise Chapman sends to Jack Lumen not only showed, but traveled from out of state. If you're talking about my thing, that is true. I did it via Zoom, like I said. The plaintiff in this lawsuit came from out of state and showed up in person, was the only party of any of the things being heard at that time in court. Everybody else, all the other parties, all the other plaintiffs and defendants and their attorneys were all, all via Zoom. She could have absolutely sat in her pajamas, I don't know how far it is, but like 18 hours away, dialed into this. I personally think what happened is I think she thought it was either one or two things. It might have been like what Lori was talking about, or not. Well, when Lori was talking, I was saying about how they just want to drag you in. They want to make you physically come in. So maybe it was partly that. I would say with her reaction, though, I don't think she understood she was losing. Like, for instance, I'll just do a quick recap. When the thing started, the judge is like, plaintiff, here, Your Honor. Defendant, here, Your Honor. It was like, okay. Well, I think my thoughts is I'm going to deny, because I had two positions. I was saying it was outside the statute of limitations, and I was saying it was a statute of frauds. And he says, I'm going to deny the statute of frauds because they're saying the contract is right now, the terms are from 2023, and so it's not 2 years, past it. So I'm going to deny that one. I think he was throwing her a bone, to be honest. And then he said, but on the statute of frauds, and that what I read in that whole thing, he's like, this is a defect that it can't be amended. I'm leaning to sustain it because it's a defect that can't be corrected, and I'll sustain it. I'm thinking of sustaining this without the ability to amend because there's nothing you're going to be able to do this, right? I think she thought if she won, now see, I knew if I won any one of those points, I won. I think she thought the same thing, that if one of the points were shut down, the whole thing would get shut down. So anyways, judge pokes me in the eye. Hope you're not using this as a loophole to get a windfall. And I'm like, Duane, you already won. Shut up. Said, basically said that, poked me in the eye, said, defendant, do you have anything to add? No, Your Honor. Plaintiff, do you have anything to add? No, Your Honor. The judge basically came back and said, and I think Lori, actually, I'm trying to see, because I think I saw you say what I'm getting ready to say. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay. So she was saying that she was the prevailing party. I didn't know this, but when you're the prevailing party for a motion or whatever, you get the joy of drafting the order or the document. So he says that. He goes, okay, so defendant, I'm tasking you or ordering you or telling you to create the proposed order sustaining the demurrer. It will conform to California Civil Process, 3.1237. You will file it in accordance with, blah, 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 and the timelines and yada, yada. And I'm trying to freaking write down, I'm making copious notes. And he's like, defendant, do you have any other, do you have anything to add? And I said, no, Your Honor. I'm like, holy crap. I didn't realize I was going to have to write this thing, but okay. I didn't say that. And I'm like, no, Your Honor. The only thing I said was like, here, Your Honor, no, Your Honor, no, Your Honor. And I was done. And then it went to the plaintiff, do you have anything? And she was like, wait, I thought I had 2 years. It was within the statute of limitations. I mean, just like dumbfounded, like, wait, what just happened? And it's like, well, ma'am, statute of frauds, anything that's an oral contract or an oral agreement outside of 1 year has to be written, and the court doesn't have any jurisdiction over this matter. So it's, nothing I can do, nothing the state of California can do. And then the judge basically said, good luck to you both. And all I remember is seeing my mother on camera, just like what? And I just like, okay, click, ended meeting. Anyways, yes, that was an interesting thing. So let's see, I'm looking at, I think okay, saw that one. Yeah. Heather says, thanks his mother. Oh, I did. She helped me out. She wrote down, she included the letter that she sent to my work and to all the bosses on the base, and in multiple places said, this is an oral agreement from 12 years ago or 11 years ago, whatever. This is an oral agreement from then, an unwritten oral agreement, over and over and over again in her pleadings. When I filed my demurrer and she tried to oppose it, and it was never opposed because she never could figure out how to get the formatting and everything correct. She was like, the 12 years doesn't matter because I have we agreed. And for 2023, I'm like, thank you for that. Maybe at some point I actually thought like, maybe I shouldn't have put down the statute of limitations, because I knew I was going to win the other one. I was just like trying to add more into it. And I think I probably, in retrospect, it was probably a smart move, even though it kind of got denied, right? So it kind of gave them a victory. But so she fixated and focused on that one issue. And it really seems like she either didn't look at, the California Civil Proceedings 1624A1, the statute of frauds, unless if she knew that she was going to lose, which I don't think so. Her reaction kind of to me seemed like she came out here to win. And my gut feeling was, I think she thought she was going to win. And I think she thought she was also going to be able to say, well, Your Honor, since I won this and I was forced to travel, I want, my airplane ticket, my rental car, my hotel, my per diem. I had to get a massage before. I want all this. I want this all added onto it. I think that was her play. I could be wrong. I don't know. Don't know. Don't care. Not going to ask. That is over and done with. All right. Let's see what the comments are. Godzilla Man Streb says, congratulations. This is so encouraging and well-deserved. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I hope you're talking to me. Prisoner 105 says, yes, prayers answered. Thank you guys for everyone who is sending good vibes my way. I really do appreciate it. No. Jack Lumen says no to this. She wanted to intimidate and get attention, and goes on to say, yes, she was probably convinced she would win. Yeah, I think I don't. Well, again, we talk about this. Narcissistic people, they get their supply in different ways. And I think she wanted me to be there. And honestly, I kind of in the back of my mind was like, all right, I'll just go. But I finally, towards the week before, I called and I'm like, hey, can I actually zoom in on this? And they're like, oh yeah, just fill out this paper. And then when I called out later to say, hey, you got my paperwork, right? I'm good to go. I was like, oh, you didn't need to do that paper. Yeah, you're good to go. Just follow the link and follow the instructions and show up on Monday. I'm like, okay. So yeah, the funny part is Jack Lumen she didn't even get to see me because I didn't even, it's like no one was turning their camera on, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to turn my camera on unless they tell me to. So all I was just a name on the screen, like in a Zoom meeting, and a voice, a disembodied voice. Oh, Lori says, yeah, Duane, yes, whoever wins gets to submit the proposed order. See, you unfortunately you have to do this a lot, so you had more experience. And technically, I think in my other, in the other time, I can't even remember who was forced to do the proposed order before. I think it was the ex's attorney. So, and I didn't understand the significance. I said, okay, so technically now it's like, oh wow, way back then, the judge basically assumed that she won. I'm like, okay, well that's interesting. I didn't realize that. Shane says DSD must be painful to not only have a narc ex, but to be in court against your mother. It was not fun. I have been dealing with my sister aligning with my ex behind my back for years. 2 narcs for the price of 1. Oh yeah, and on that, Shane, I mean, I've mentioned this before, but around 2016, 2015, excuse me, 2016, my mom decided that my boundaries were not appropriate and made friends with the ex and started hanging out with her. Went over and spent the weekend with her and would, work with, and I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm done. That was a part where I finally said, I'm done. No more. I'm not doing this anymore. Jack says, Shane, I'm still praying that I don't wind up in Duane's shoes. I hope you don't as well. Lori says, Duane, so happy for you. I love you quoting the exact statute numbers. I know 6116 well. Need an ability to pay. Yeah, it's funny, right? You start to learn this stuff and it kind of rolls off your thing. I mean, like I wrote up a statement in case I had to say something because when I talked to the attorney, he's like, well, you might have to make a statement or restate your, like summarize your position. So I wrote up, I used just answers. I wrote up my little, paragraph, had them look at it and say, yeah, that's good. And I'm like, so I kind of practiced that so I could roll it off my tongue and not get tied up. Cause I was really worried about being nervous on that. But yeah, once you dive into it, it starts making sense-ish. I still don't like the fact that I don't really understand the legal jargon and what it means. Like I was saying a moment ago on that, when it says, blah, yada, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what, I didn't know what that meant. So, and I wouldn't have been able to write that, right? I mean, I'm trying to remember because what I wrote initially was a little bit different than what was proposed. And then after I submitted it later that day, the court posted what the text really was. And I was just like, when I had to redo it, I just took my other document, deleted the middle section I had written, which was pretty close to what they had posted. So I was close, little word difference, semantic differences. So I just basically put their thing in, added the top and added the bottom. I added the, it's so ordered and all that kind of stuff. That was, I got that from a template from somebody else, from that attorney. I did that. Lori goes on to say, Duane, yes, I think she thought she'd win. I think they convinced themselves they are the victim. Well done. Thank you. Thank you for that. Itelmer says, DSD, was that proposed order the same as the Demurrer motion? The only, and I can't show that because that would basically dox me big time. So the original Demurrer, which, you know what, I guess I'll ask if anybody wants to see that, put it in the comments below. Say, yeah, do a thing on what your original Demurrer was. I can redact that and we can go over that if you're interested. But in the Demurrer, I basically said, I referenced why I was able to ask for this, cited the law that, that was there. Then I basically said, first one was, the statute of fraud, 1624A1 says, oral agreements must, with terms outside a year, that whole thing. And then I basically, in the next paragraph, I said, and furthermore, in 339I1, it states that the statute of limitations for an oral agreement is 2 years. And to me, I'm like, hey, the oral agreement, which she stated, was from 2012. So that means it would have been dead no matter what in 2024 or, 2 years later. So I don't think the judge looked at anything. I think what he looked at is I think it was backwards. So I think he looked at my response to, or it was a reply in support of Demurrer. And I did that because of the opposition to Demurrer that they filed that got rejected. So he looked at that, and I didn't even mention, in the original Demurrer, I mentioned what I thought was going on and why this was a lie. But taking what they're saying as facts, this whole thing doesn't count because it's an illegal contract. Excuse me. So I didn't say that in my reply and response. So I don't think he read that. I think he just read my part where I just reaffirmed saying plaintiff still says this is an oral agreement from 11 years ago. It is 1624A1, and I might have said something about 339. I don't remember. So I think he looked at that and he was like, "Oh, that's weird." He goes, "Yeah, that he's probably like, oh yeah, that pretty much knocks this out of the water." Looked at kind of maybe quickly looked at something or whatever, and it was done. I mean, it was just done. But he didn't read the other stuff, so kind of interesting on that part. Checking our time. We've been going at well, I guess maybe I'm not as bad on my medication as thought, because normally when my numbers are the way they are, I can't not get up for over an hour is too much time. So I'll keep going for a little bit, and then we'll have to wrap up here in a little bit. Okay. All right. I'm just looking to see if there's anything on this. Cindy says, yes, the voice of sweet victory. So happy for you, Duane. Well, thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that. Jack Lumen says, DSC noise. I think that's what you're saying. My kids say that sometimes. Yeah, I saw that was an option last time I went to court. Remote participants are not required to turn on their cameras, so they didn't. Yeah, so on that. When I did, I use this. Mission Control is set up where I can do Zoom and I can do Teams and I can do all those other things. So on that, I'm like, there is no way in hell I'm going to dial into a court meeting with this microphone and the headphones. No way. Because I do not want the first thing to be like, why is your picture really great and your audio amazing? What exactly do you do, sir? I didn't want to deal with that. So I'd use my AirPods, my Apple EarPods, whatever, the ones with the wire. Plugged them into the computer, had the white wire running up to my head. So I'm like, if they come in, I've still got a good picture and stuff, but I did not want to, I didn't want to draw any undue attention to myself. Maybe I didn't have to worry about it, but I didn't want to risk it. Oh, okay. iTumbler says yes, or DSD, yes, please. Thank you. It would be very cool to see. Okay. I was talking with, actually, somebody mentioned Alex. I was chatting with Alex earlier today, and he's like, man, you should make a video about this. So I could do this and go through from the original the original filing. And I probably wouldn't do it all in one. I think what I would do is I would break it up in a series, because I think each document and the discussion of it would be probably an hour, and there's a few, right? There'd be the original filing. There would be probably the discussion of the answer and the affirmative defenses. Then a video on, when I realized that, a video on the Demurrer, excuse me, and the story of how long it took me to figure out what the F a Demurrer even was. What the right term was. Writing that, getting that rejected, going through the iterations to do that. Then the response, I could cover probably the response in my reply and support of it could probably be the last video. So maybe I did this out of order, but I did want to share this document with you guys. Let's see. Oh, I get it. I saw iTumbler says DST is the next Alex Falcone. And then Tim Tim says, Duane's head is not pointy enough to be Alex. I'm not even sure what that means, but that sounds funny. Alex Falcone from The Proper Person and Our Nevada Wizards. That guy is super freaking smart. I mean, and he's played this game so much that emotionally he doesn't even get wrapped up into this stuff anymore. And I wish, I really was struggling with that. I really wanted it to be that. I wanted to get to that point. I wanted to get to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with what happened, with whatever happens. And there was a real had I lost this and she had won this, it would have bankrupted me. The terms that she was saying that were agreed to was an amount that I was never, I didn't make that agreement, never, that was never in discussion. So I was never planning on $1,100 a month payment for 3 years or almost 3 years. I mean, had I known that, I would not have purchased the truck, the camper. I wouldn't have gone on that trip with my youngster. I wouldn't have bought them a computer. I mean, there's all kinds of shit. There's all kinds of stuff that I would not have done in the last 3 years if I knew that I had a $30,000 bill looming over my head. No, they just sprung it on me at the end. So I was kind of like, oh crap. Anyways, Lori says, Duane, yes, sadly, judges shift out of family law divisions and you don't have continuity. Oh my God, yeah. It's like starting over with each new judge. I had a client I was working with that happened. I mean, it was weird because the judge was like, I hate you. I'm trying to remember, in family court, it's respondent and I can't remember what the difference. It's not defendant and plaintiff. It's something else in family court. Respondent and whoever can remember. I'm sure I could look it up, but I'm not going to. But if someone else knows. But anyways, the judge had said to him, I hate you, but would never rule against him. All the rulings that were being made, all the false allegations and the protective orders were all denied. I need emergency full custody, denied. He's mean, denied. All this stuff. I mean, but for whatever reason, the judge would voice that they were angry which I thought was highly inappropriate, but they wouldn't rule against him. And the guy was like, oh, this judge. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? You keep winning. I mean, who cares if she says, you're a scumbag and I hate you. You win. You won. But what happened is that judge retired. He got a new judge. And that new judge freaking, it's like Lori was talking about. It was like starting over. And that judge basically was like, right from the beginning, it's like, I don't like you. I'm going to rule against you. If you make me have to rule on this, you're going to lose. I think the mom should get full custody. I mean, all this stuff. And I'm just like, holy crap. Now, that's not what ultimately happened. They ended up settling it basically what he was asking for in the beginning, which still doesn't make sense because I don't understand why. There must have been something looming there because for his ex to agree to that whenever the judge is like, oh yeah, please go to trial. Please go to trial so that I can crush you. I mean, at that point, why not? But anyways, I digress. So yeah, I'll bring Lori's comment back up. I mean, the reality is that these things take so damn long that oftentimes it's like, you spend a year and it's like, okay, judge, did their turn in family court. Now they're doing something different. So now you get a new judge. So Defy Dad says, I watch Alex Falcone a lot to gain more understanding. Just to be clear, he does not have an Alex Falcone channel. He has the channel is called The Proper Person, and the channel is called, let me try to just bring it up. What I'm going to do is I'll go here so I can pimp this first. So as I pull up, oh wow, look at this. Dusty Road Destinations. I wonder if you guys should subscribe to that channel. That would be my outdoor channel. Shameless plug. But I wonder Alex Falcone. I don't know if you search on him and does it come up. It only comes up the interview. Oh, he was on this talk show. Okay, so he has two channels. He has The Proper person, which is basically his legal review nuts and bolts things where he talks about different things. Let me go to his channel. Excuse me. You'll see he has stuff on his case where he went through the whole part. He has different sections. If you want to understand the process, this legal nuts and bolts thing, which if I remember correctly, I wonder if I can pull it up.
In court, whether it's orally.
That's Alex right there from way back when. Oh my God, 4x3. Come on, Alex. Where's your 4K 16x39 or 16x9? So he has, let me look at this. In this playlist, he has what are we at? We're into hundreds. We're into high hundreds, 200. Wow, right on the dot. That's crazy. So he has 200 individual videos about different parts of the process. I will say that I did review, which started me on my little journey here. I reviewed the complaint video, which talks about what the complaint is and isn't, and then the response to the complaint, which is what I needed to do, and affirmative defenses right here. And this thing, I didn't even know what the hell affirmative defenses were. I'm like, what? It made no sense to me. But yeah, if you got time and you're dealing with legal stuff, I would highly encourage you to go over, subscribe to his channel, and if you can watch all of them, watch all of them. If you can't, find the topics that are relevant to what you're doing and review them. Okay, so that's his one channel, The Proper Person. His other channel, which is a nonprofit, is Our Nevada Judges. And this channel is his nonprofit that covers and video broadcast cases in the Nevada courtrooms. So he literally has a team. Sometimes it's himself, sometimes it's one of his guys, or sometimes it's even his wife will go into court, set up a camera. I think most of the time they get approval to live broadcast. Sometimes he's even been the news, the feed link for the news. And he also has, that probably wasn't a good idea. He also has this website, Our Nevada Judges. The cool part about this, if I can find it, he's rechanged it recently. You can, like let's say you can click on a judge or look for a judge and see, how many cases has Judge Christner done? She's had 311 cases. There's 58 videos from her courtrooms. How many articles are about it, endorsements. And then normally they have a rating. I don't know where that's at. I don't know where to find that. Statistics maybe? Yeah, error rate, how many times she gets overturned. So she's correct. Yeah, more than half the time. Makes wrong rulings some of the time. So overturn rate. So in other words, on appeal, you can obviously see what I keep looking at, camera gear. So, if you want to help the cause, follow the links below. I'm just joking. So anyways, but Alex, outstanding resource. If you go over there and watch his videos and you're like, hey, man, this guy's great. Say, hey, you're great. And DSD sent me over. I appreciate that if you do that. All right. Let me get back over to get my stuff all lined up. Excuse me. All right. Where are we at? Petitioner. Thank you. Thank you, iTumblers, the petitioner and the respondent. The funny thing is in the reply to or opposition to Demurrer, she kept calling me the respondent. I swear to God, my mom felt like we were in family court because it was like she was using the terms from the wrong court. And yeah, it was funny. All right, let's see. Yes, thank you guys. I wish I would have saw. Carrie says petitioner. Ivan says petition, which I get it, right? I mean, when I was in the middle of it, I knew the terms. It's just been, it's been years and my brain's been focused on this civil case. So I'm going to have to get my mind back into it because I'm getting ready to go back into family court for the alimony thing. So that'll be fun. Another thing I can make some videos on, right? Excuse me. What in the world? Okay, I missed something. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on, so I'm not going to read that, but interesting. All right. Lori says, Duane, I filed my motion for child support. Wow. In November 21. It took forever to file because my ex managed to get our case sealed by lying about trade secrets from his business in there. And so here's the crazy part, right? This is all freaking magic. The court thing. So, he knew the steps to add delays and slow things down. He knew what to say to make certain things happen. The disadvantage we have is we don't know what the words mean. And this is one of the reasons why I didn't say anything. If I wasn't required to speak other than to say, yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor. I wasn't going to say anything because I did not want to accidentally say something that would cause me a problem. But that does not surprise me, Lori. Wise says, trade secrets and a legal document for family court divorce? What the heck? Anyways, that's funny. All right. Okay, so Shane says, and I'm not an attorney, so he asks, if you got divorced and settled your divorce in Supreme Court, I think you probably mean Superior Court, and wanted to file for intervention on your ex for violation of an agreement, would that be done in the same court or family court? I think more than likely, Shane, you were, I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but you don't do divorces in Supreme Court. And Supreme Court is like an appellate court. And I'll tell you, I was confused when I did mine, and it was like, this is being heard in the Superior Court. I'm like, the Superior Court? Holy crap. I thought, yeah, it confused me too. My guess would be, I'm like 90% sure it's going to be family court. So, and I would say probably, well, let me flip it around. Whatever court you did your divorce in, and you're going to file a intervention for violation of the agreement, basically contempt of a court order, it will be in the court that has jurisdiction of that court order, which would be whatever court signed and approved it. If that happened to be the Supreme Court, which does not make sense, maybe there is a reason it was done there, then actually, I mean, I seriously doubt that, but it would be whatever court you did it in. Like, for instance, I was sued in civil court, so I had to go to the civil division or civil department, and there's a bunch of different departments, when you go on there, like even when you go into like, hey, remote entry, it's like, is it family court? Is it, traffic court? Is it criminal court? There's like all these different courts, and I finally in civil court, and where I'm at is J, right? There's all these other letters, and then you get to J, and that was the court I was in. So wherever it was started is where it's going to be. I mean, you could probably, if you needed to, you could maybe try to do a change of court or something, but then that's a whole nother thing. You would have to ask for that and get that approved. So Lori goes on to say, Duane, therefore, when my new attorney back then tried to file the petition, the clerk of the court told him that the case does not exist. My ex had managed to drag it out for almost 3 years. Yeah, see, that's the hard part with court. I mean, it's slow. I mean, even mine. I mean, it's like, when I sent that thing in, I'm like, okay, when is this going to get signed? I mean, holy crap, what's taking so long? But and here's the reality. When I was in the civil court, the judge was telling everyone, hey, just so you know, if we have to push something back, or schedule a hearing or /trial, we are scheduling, if you ask today, we're looking for a date for a trial 18 months from now. So that's when I was talking to Alex about this way back when, about my situation, he's like, oh, this is going to take, you won't go to trial for 2 years. And I'm like, holy crap, seriously? He goes, oh yeah. And if it gets to where you have to do stuff, there's ways you can delay it, kind of like what Lori was talking about. He goes, there's ways you can, bring the process to a grinding halt. And unfortunately, that's part of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Part of the way people do things in court. So Lori went on to say, my petition for modification of child support trial has finally been set for September 2024. Now, here's the thing. Excuse me, Lori. This is the one thing I think. So correct me if I'm wrong, if you know better, and you may. Since you've... This is my understanding. If you think differently, let me know. So, Lori, you said... I wonder if I can pull this. I wonder if I can drag this. Can I drag this on the screen? So I can bring it on the screen at the same time? Well, that didn't work. That might have worked. Okay. So Lori said, I filed my motion for child support in 2021 in November. She's got her September, into this year. So you're talking about, so my understanding, let me pull this off the screen. My understanding, Lori, is in September of 2024, when you have that, I don't know, did you say it's a trial or a hearing? It's probably a hearing. Excuse me. So let's say they go back and they go, oh, hey, Lori, I see your petition here to have, I'm assuming you're asking, well, I'll say this in case it's the other way around and you're trying to get it reduced. If it's reduced, you'll probably lose, you won't get any of the back money. But if it is an increase, most of the time what they will do is they will say, oh, okay, Mr. J.A., you guys can determine what that means. Okay, we now see that, child support should be $1,000 more. $1,000. We'll just use that number because it's easy. So $1,000, let me pull this up. Calculator. Pull up my calculator. I'll run this up. I'll bring it back over here so it's on the screen. I wonder if I can make that bigger. Can I make this bigger? No, I guess not. So $1,000. And you said how many? For almost 3 years. So times 12 times 3. If that happens, he'll be in arrears $36,000. Just boom, boom. There you go. Okay. All right. Yep. Child support should have been adjusted in 2011 from when you first filed for it. And yeah, you owe from back then. We're going to make this order today, but it's enforceable from back then. Now, granted, since he's an attorney, I would imagine he's going to try to use the magic words to make sure that does not occur, but that might be what's happening. Anyways. All right, so I read that one. So Shane says, I got divorced in Supreme Court, NYS. Wait a minute, Shane. Are you in? Where are you at? Maybe you're not in the States. Same. Wise. What did Wise say? Did Wise say depends on state? Okay. Yeah, maybe. So, and that's true. I mean, if they call it something different, again, I mean, so I'm using the terms that are here. So, well, then that's where you would do it. If you got divorced and that's where the order is, Shane, that would be where you would go back and fight that. Wow, I hit that at the wrong time. Dispense it. Thought I might even click on that one. That's weird. All right. Tim says in Michigan, divorce court is in circuit court. Yeah, in California, it's in family court. That's interesting. Okay. And the crazy part is if you don't call it the right thing and follow their magic, their magic spell, they'll reject it. Like, for instance, when I mentioned before, even in California, in the example document I had, it was, civil division or whatever. It was like civil division, but in my county, it's civil department. And they're like, "Whoa, we don't have that. That's not what we call it. Reject. You have to fix it." So, but, I'm sure, attorneys understand that, so they know to probably, hold on a second, I'm hitting the wrong button. All right. Yep, Lori concurred, said yes, back pay from the date of filing. No, an increase. Yeah, I mean, so, I mean, unless you lose the increase, which probably, most of the time, unless he's had a change of circumstances where he's making significantly less, or you're not working or something, he's probably going to be hosed. And I'll tell you guys, you do not want to get behind in child support in any state, because that becomes very complicated. And as soon as, so like if, I don't know if Lori would want to do this, but let's say she wins, the number happens to be right, and he doesn't have the money to, just pay it. If Lori was to call her Department of Child Support Services and say, he's not paying, I want you to enforce this, it's like automatic. They can just screw with you. I almost got my license suspended because they thought I was like $25 in arrears, and they were like garnishing my pay out of every paycheck. And it was vicious. They tried to seize my retirement account. Excuse me. It wasn't fun. So that's my point to say to you guys. If at all, and granted, I understand that, sometimes it's too much and you just can't. But if you can at all make sure that you are never in you are always either at zero or plus $1, and that number is never a negative, it would be in your best interest to do that. I learned that lesson the hard way, painful way. Oh man, he's going to get hosed. Lori says, Duane, I also added the pro rata for agreed child expenses also needs changing, and reimbursement from date of filing. See, and again, this is kind of what I was talking about with toxic narcissistic people. They tend to win. Now granted, she hasn't won. Lori hasn't won. She still has to go to court. But if things follow the trend, and he sounds, like he's the toxic narcissistic evil SOB, after, 6 to 8 years, things go south. And this could be a wake up. Now, granted, maybe the numbers are not that big of a deal, and and if he loses, he'll be a jackass about it for a little bit, and then, cut you a check. I don't know, but so. Yeah, it goes on to say he's paying child support based upon 1/4 his actual income, but he owns his own firm, so not a W-2 earned, so a lot of adding and backs and hiding money. Yeah, see, that makes it tough, right? Because then what you're going to have to do, which you probably already are doing, you're going to have to say, okay, well, I need to see, I don't want to do W-2s, I want to see tax returns, and and again, Lori, I'm rooting for you. I hope that you just finally have you had your victory yesterday. I hope that when you finally do this one, you just you make it so painful. See, this is what's so crazy. My guess, Lori, is probably you were like, whatever. I'm just it's not worth fighting. But this guy is constantly dragging you back in court. And you're like, well, okay, you know what? I'm being dragged in here. So, you know what? Let's address these other issues that I've just basically was letting go of. Maybe. I mean, for you to wait this long, I would imagine it's been one of those things that you've been kind of like contemplating whether to do it. And, ultimately it's going to be probably he does this to himself. I mean, to be honest, I think in my situation, I don't know for sure. Well, I know part of it because I do know that some of the information that I talked with the kids ended up in the court documents from my mom. And I don't think my kids said anything. I think they talked to their mother and their mother talks to my mom. And that paragraph ended up in their original lawsuit. My point on this is that prior to this happening, and Lori, I'm curious if you agree with this or whatever, but my thought was, okay, this is, my family court's done, or, the divorce decree is done. All the kids are emancipated or whatever you call it. I think it's emancipated or whatever the word is, and the last one turns 18 in August. So September, this will be over. And I'm like, in some of my older videos, I've talked about this. Is like, well, do I try to deal with the alimony thing now? And I wasn't. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I do not want to be thinking about this crap anymore. California, for some reason, made a mistake, or my county, and they were still ordering my alimony to be pulled out of my check. I'm like, oh, I didn't think they were going to do that. But I was like, okay, you know what? Whatever. Out of sight, out of mind. The child support dropped off. That number looked right. They're still pulling alimony. Okay, fine. Whatever. That's fine. Whatever. The county reissued a different order, basically saying, drop child support but continue alimony. And I'm like, great. I'm not gonna worry about it. I will wait a year or two before I decide to mess with this. I want to work on other things. I want to go camping more. I want to work on the channel more. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to drag myself in the pit of hell. But when all this crap happened, and I had to basically become, Mr. freaking Rain Man on or try to on the court stuff, it's like, well, I am in this mode. It's already fresh in my mind. I know how to write the documents. I understand where to get the information. I probably should just go ahead and fight this. And the information I've been given thus far is that alimony will get terminated. Right. I haven't had anyone say to me yet, and I'm going to do a couple more checking before I do it. I haven't had anyone say, oh, no, they won't, oh, you might be able to get it reduced, but you'll never get it terminated. The two people I spoke with thus far have said, oh, no, you're right. It's no, California does not, isn't supportive of lifetime alimony. And when I told them that the Gavron warning was I think that's what California uses, maybe other states do as well, I don't know. But basically it's a warning saying you need to go get a job and become self-sufficient. And I'm like, look, here's the situation. 12 years ago, Gavron warning was issued. 8 years ago, went to better herself and got a degree, an associate's degree in paralegal studies, and has been working a job for 4 years. I'm like, oh yeah, you're done. It'll be terminated. So, so I'll work on that. So nice. Lori says, Duane, I'm grateful now. I now have an attorney who's going to keep filing for fees as I cannot pay him. Well, good. I'm going to hit this. It seems like we very rarely get attorneys that are really good and are helpful, other than them helping themselves to our wallet. So good for you. Lori goes on to say, to defy dad, unfortunately, you learn as you go. Experience. Yep, that is absolutely true. Let's see. Pepe. Hey, Pepe. Haven't seen you on in a while. Says alimony is a joke. Well, I understand what you're saying, but man, whenever that money comes out of my account, because now it's coming, it goes into the account and then it goes out, because I'm not going to just, wire transfer her money, from my paycheck, but I kind of liked it better when it was just like when I got my paycheck, it was like, boom, there it is. I don't necessarily like it's like, hey, it's this number, but you have to delete, a few $100s every 2 weeks. All right. Well, we're almost at 2 hours. So let me see if there's anything I missed. And I forgot to hit my stinger thing when we changed topics. So, oh well for that. If there are any lingering issues, ask it, and I will try to hit it before we wrap things up. Excuse me. I don't know what the delay is. I'm going to do this. I'm going to ask somebody, and I'm going to get down at the bottom comments. I'm going to say right now, say now in the comments, so I know how long it takes. And I'll start a time. Well, you know what? Stop that. Don't do that. Wait, don't do it. I'm going to do a stopwatch. I'm going to do a stopwatch. Okay. So, no, that's a timer. Go to stopwatch. All right. When I say, okay, right now, put now in the comments. Okay. And I'm going to let that run. I wonder if it'll focus on me. It'll probably focus if I move it over my face. There we go. No. Okay. So I'm thinking, damn it, I should have changed the word because you guys are probably saying now when I said now. If that is correct, that's 17 seconds. My gut feeling is it's probably on the stopwatch now 2.0. Stop. Oh, 20, really? Oh, so it's only 23 seconds to now 2.0. Okay. Well, shoot, that's cool. I thought it was longer. I mean, 20 seconds still is not short amount of time, but I didn't know how quick we are. Okay, thank you guys. So I have to tailor my questions differently to get you all to respond. That's hilarious. But thank you for that. That's awesome. You guys made me laugh. I like you guys. So, all right. Checking through the comments. If anyone has anything for me, tag me. Say question. I think we're about ready to wrap up. I mean, I think hopefully the original... and I'll just add on to this. I've started to turn off the DVR feature in the stream because geez, I just read something and it threw me off. I've started to turn it off kind of for this reason, because I didn't realize that when people would come in, if they weren't current and they're commenting on something that happened, like this stream's almost 2 hours. If somebody was commenting on something that had an hour ago and it pops up, I have no idea what they're talking about. So I've kind of forced this that you can only watch the live version of it. I think it's better. I mean, if it was a video that was a pre-recorded or something, maybe that would be different. But with it being like this and we're having a discussion, I think it's better to force it to where you have to be live. Unfortunately, it means you can't rewind until it comes back on the replay. But I think it's better because it keeps the conversation in line with what's actually happening and what a lot of people are talking about. So if you notice that, that's something I've tried to do. I also think I might have made it to where you can only make comments if you're a subscriber. For some reason, it's defaulting to that, so I may have changed that. I mean, I guess technically, I would probably prefer that subscribers are talking. Might rule out some trolls. I mean, granted, obviously, all someone has to do is subscribe and then whatever. George says, my ex-father-in-law tried to sue me. See, that almost makes more sense, right? Your own mother suing you or your own father suing you, that doesn't make as much sense. George, you said tried, so I hope you were able to get that thrown out. But it sucks when these people use court and it forces you to have to engage and deal with it. And like even in my situation, it still cost me a few $100, or I guess few would be like $3. I think I know one thing I paid for that hearing. It cost me to have that hearing. I had to pay $450 for the hearing fee, plus the filing fee, plus the service fees, plus the convenience fees of doing it electronically. I mean, so, and every time I sent a piece of paper, it was like 60 to 70 bucks. I mean, so this, I'm probably into it a good $800-900. I could have bought myself a new radio. I could have bought myself a new radio. Instead, I had to pay it on court. I was going to say camera, but I couldn't. I don't have a I don't have a camera laying around. Speaking of that, completely off topic, I am seriously thinking about getting, upgrading my ham radio license and doing some more HF stuff. And what I'm thinking is I want to go out, and when I drive my happy little butt up to the mountains or out in the middle of the desert, setting up a radio and then either coordinating with people to try to make communications in different states and whatever, and just practice with that. I think that might be fun. Maybe I'm nuts, but that's one thing I'm thinking about trying to do. Shane says, hold on, I got to get down to that. That's money well spent. Thank you, sir. I think so as well. Wasn't super happy about it, but yeah, absolutely. Oh, FPS says, I was wondering why I couldn't rewind to the beginning when I jumped in the middle of this. Kind of annoying only because I love the content so much that I wanted to see it all. I know, FPS. I appreciate you saying that. I just kind of went through why I did it. I don't know. Like I said, as soon as this is over and it, reposts, you should be able to start from the beginning. So sorry about that, FPS, but thank you so much for jumping on. I appreciate it. I always like seeing your little profile picture show up in the scrolling comments. Oh, this is hilarious. I don't know if my buddy posted this in his video. I don't know if his video came out, but I went out with Johnny Taco and a couple other guys, and we had s'mores, and it was like the biggest freaking. It was like this gigantic marshmallow. And I don't know if you all know this, because I don't eat s'mores a lot, and I definitely don't eat marshmallows. But when you have a beard and you have a flaming melting mush of goo, you get it all over yourself. And my buddy Mr. Taco freaking filmed that. And for the rest of the trip, they called me Marshy. On the radio, my call sign changed to Marshy. Are you with us, Marshy? Yeah, I'm with you. So, the reality, Lori, is technically that stuff I'm not really supposed to eat anymore. So I try not to do stuff like that because it's definitely not good for my blood sugar. When I have my medication, the numbers kind of have been staying in check, but man, when I ran out, I take three medications for my diabetes. I take like metformin, Januvia, and then this insulin thing I take once a day. It's like a long-lasting yada yada. So I ran out of the insulin part, and excuse me. Oh yeah, do not in the comments start typing Marshy. And as I say that, I know you guys all are, so it's funny. Anyways, yeah, so, it's amazing how fast my numbers have started to go up since running. I ran out this Friday. I think Thursday or whatever day I went and did my blood work. So I was current. I took the last dose, ran out, and then every day the numbers. Oh, wow. Lori's a pharmacist. Oh, crud. So I'm saying this, and you're probably saying, Duane, you're a knucklehead for not, making sure you didn't run out. So, yeah. Anyways. So, alrighty. Tumblers. Good old Marshy. Yep. It was pretty funny. I was laughing my butt off on that. So they're like, have another one. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing another one. So, ooh, Defy Dad says, DSD, Get a long-range, high-gain antenna or external antenna for your ham radio. Also get a licensed and use repeater to connect to people all over the world. Yeah, no, I do the repeater thing. There's a bunch of nets. Like in Southern California, there is literally a net called Papa. There's a couple of them, but that one goes from like San Diego to like Sacramento or maybe Fresno. I mean, like literally you hear people talking from all over all over the southern part of the state. It's pretty amazing. And then there's another system where I actually was listening to someone talk the other day, and they were saying basically, one guy was like in Washington State, and the other person was in a truck in Texas, getting ready to go out on an oil rig. And I'm like, and I mean, they're just having a conversation like, oh, hey, this is what's going on. You know, they use their call signs and yada, yada. I'm like, wow, pretty crazy. All right. No, I believe you, Lori. I do. So anyway, so on that, we have done 2 hours, and I think now would be a good time to wrap things up. So what I'm going to do, because I really do appreciate all the channel members, is I'm going to hit the button and say thank you to everybody who has clicked the join button. We have a new one, Son of Narky, which I love that name, is a newer member. So thanks to the folks who clicked the join button and have said, you know what, Duane, you're doing such a good job, and I appreciate what you're doing, that I'm going to become a channel member. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me, guys, that you do that. So on that, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. I know that I have not been very consistent. I am going to attempt to get better. Obviously, I have some things I'm working on, health. This case thing was taking a lot of time, but I do plan on trying to figure out a new schedule. I am not sure whether it's going to be morning, evening. I don't know. We're going to have to figure that out. Hopefully you guys will work with me on that, and we will come up with a solution that works for everybody, including me. And on that, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for your support and the great conversations. And on that note, have a great rest of your evening, and I will catch you on the next one.